All right.
All right. What's up, Christian Life? I am here with a special chapel. We have a special guest. He is no stranger to Christian Life. In fact, he was here earlier in the year to hang out with us for the middle school and high school retreat. So everyone say what's up. Welcome, Chad Bruegman. Chad, what's up?
Let's give it a pause for the claps and the cheers.
That's not how it works, Chad. Crickets. Yeah. Thanks for coming on and hanging out with us. Just a couple of idiots having a little chat here. That's basically what's going on here. I'm sure Christian Life is divided into two groups. Half the students respect you greatly, and half of them are just here for pure entertainment to see what goes wrong.
And have utter disdain for me.
Yeah, exactly.
And hey, I'm not even mad about it. I get it.
Obviously, things are kind of crazy right now. You are now a homeschool dad. I know not everybody maybe knows your family situation. You're married. You have 4 kids. Can you tell everyone the ages of your children, if you can even remember the ages, and then kind of how it's going right now as a homeschool dad?
Okay, yeah. Wife is Rachel. Way better human than me.
Amen.
My oldest son is 14. His name is Jude. Incredible kid. My second child and only daughter is Jane. She's 11, graduating 5th grade, going into middle school next year. So she's kind of bummed that she's missing. They have continuation for 5th graders. She's kind of bummed she's missing that.
Yeah.
But such is life right now. Benjamin's our 8-year-old, AKA Little Farley is his nickname. He brings so much joy and laughter to the family nonstop. And then our last one and final one is Cruz, and he is crazy. Crazy. He's 4. So 14 to 4.
4 to 14. And how's it going helping those 4 be homeschooled right now? You enjoying teaching?
I'm a better principal than I am a teacher, and I'm having to do both right now. As far as cracking the whip and keeping discipline and yeah, I'm a good principal. As far as teaching kids, like after 2nd grade math, I can't help my kids. So I'm helping Ben, and Cruz is in preschool, so I got him good. But my daughter, 5th grade and junior high math, I'm out. So I have no clue.
Just a lot of encouragements, and you can do it, buddy.
Yeah, a lot of email rebukes I'm getting from their real teachers for what I'm doing wrong. God bless them. They're trying to help me so much. Teachers, I love you. You're amazing. We couldn't do it without you. You all deserve a raise, by the way.
Thanks, man.
Except for Sonny.
Okay. Yeah.
He needs emotion, but whatever.
Yeah. I'm going to put you on the spot here. I know you're a pretty big Office fan, as am I, and some of my students. I'm going to give you a character from The Office, and I'm going to ask you what you think their perspective or their response to the coronavirus would be during this time. Okay, so we got to start off with the main character, Michael Scott.
Michael Scott would unknowingly and unwittingly break every quarantine rule with the best heart possible. He, trying to help people, would throw a block party. Only Andy would show up trying to get on his good side, and Dwight would come, tackle him, and completely thinks he's legally shutting it down under the guise of a citizen's arrest.
There you go. That 2 other characters I was going to ask were Dwight and Andy. So why don't we go to Dwight's response?
Okay, Dwight has officially made himself COVID-19 specialist, analyst, chief officer. He is on a task force that nobody made up except him, and nobody else is on it, except Angela will do secret rides with him every now and then. But he's on a task force, and he literally goes around his plot of land looking for people that he thinks have snuck on, but nobody snuck on because nobody wants beets.
Schrute Farms, man. He's been preparing for this his whole life.
He does believe, though, beets have the antidote to the COVID-19 strain. He really believes that much in beets.
Him and Moser doing some tests.
Yep. In their shed. Yep.
All right, last one. What about Kevin Malone?
Okay. Oh, Kevin Malone. He has put on an extra COVID-19 pounds. Most of it's from the chili.
Yeah.
Spilled on the floor. He's cooked a whole nother pot or two and ate it all himself because he's quarantined at an apartment by himself. He's probably made enough money to not have to come back to the office on online betting. He's way better at that than he is at accounting. And he finally had enough time on his hands to sit at home. And so the irony is he strikes it rich, buys Dunder Mifflin. Boom. Done.
I love it. That's great. That's great. Okay, let's get into this. I know we kind of talked about just having a chat, even just in regards to mental and emotional health. I know that's something that you've been really kind of passionate about, especially in recent years, even because of some things that you've gone through personally. This is a time when we're stuck at home, isolated. And for some reason during seasons like this, it seems that mental and emotional health can become more of a struggle. And my first question to you is, why do you think that is? What are some of the reasons as to why it's seasons like this, maybe feeling stuck or in isolation when routine has changed, that we start to battle different thoughts and emotions in a much different way?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there's a multitude of things all at once that create a heightened sense of some mental frustrations and struggles, and for some people we'll call it mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone to some degree deals with mental health stuff. It's just a matter of where you're at on the spectrum. And so some people that are like on medications, which a lot of us, and I've been before, and that's a further end of the spectrum. Some people just have light melancholy moments every now and then. But no matter where you're at on any part of that spectrum, any of your students listening, pretty much most students and most people in general have bumped up the spectrum just a tad bit during this. And I think part of it's isolation. I don't think humans, that's why none of us want to go to jail, right? We're all scared to do stuff to put us in jail because it's the thought of isolation. It's the scenarios we play out in our head of this little box that you're stuck in. And we've all been put to some degree, not in jail, but we've been put in a smaller box than we're used to. And just getting used to that takes the human brain and the human mind. It takes time and it takes grace, because we've been trained in our neural pathways, what size box we live in and what size boundaries we've been given. And when all of a sudden that shrinks down to most of us having to stay at our houses most of the time, that has an effect on your mental health. And you shouldn't be surprised when that happens, and you should not feel one bit of shame or bad about it, but you do have to deal with it. So I think isolation's the no-brainer.
Sure.
And then I think you take it a step further, and every single one of your students that's listening right now, and even teachers, COVID-19, this quarantine has cost everybody something in one way or another. Some people it's cost greatly, all the way to like losing a loved one.
Yes.
Some people it's cost, like me, I'm unemployed right now. And I have a family of 4 that I have to feed. And I have now almost not worked for a full month. And I don't know, because my job is to speak to crowds and fly on planes. And so I'm obviously unemployed overnight. And if this goes too much longer, it starts getting crazy. And so then I have to add that to the fact that I'm also isolated. And a bunch of you have your story. It may not be unemployment, or you may not have lost someone, but even a lot of the grief, and we might talk about this in a little bit, but even the grief some of your seniors are feeling from the loss of the second semester essentially of their senior year, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And they worked hard to get to that. And then all of a sudden it's taken out from under you. And so we often hear grief and we think about funerals. We think about deaths. We think about people that have had horrific situations. But grief is any loss you've experienced on any level. And we're all experiencing some kind of loss in one way or another. And so grief is through the roof right now. And most people, especially when you're younger, and that's not because there's anything wrong with being young. You just haven't lived as much life to experience as much grief as maybe your parents or your grandparents. Mm. And I'm grateful for that. But now you're experiencing a wave of grief. And if you don't know what to do with that grief, it will have an effect on your mental health for sure.
Yeah. I know, and especially in recent years, you've been pretty open and vulnerable about your your battle or your struggle in regards to like mental and emotional health. Um, and so I don't know if maybe for students, for people who are listening who don't really know some of your story, if you could take us through a little bit of what you've been through, kind of when maybe um, things started, kind of the process of really discovering things within yourself and how to deal with some of those battles.
Yeah. For me, it was probably later, junior and senior year was the first time I would have ever remembered experiencing what we call depression. Like probably my junior year, where for the first time in my life, prior to that, I was a pretty happy-go-lucky kid. I lived a pretty charmed life in terms of great parents. We were never rich, but we were never so poor that it was rough. And I always had everything I needed. I had incredible friends. I was privileged to play sports. And I just had a lot of great things in life. And so it really threw me off when I was a junior. And for the first time, it was really hard to get out of bed in the morning and want to get up and go to school. I didn't want to go to sporting events anymore. I wasn't as excited about practicing the sports I was involved in, going out on the weekends with my friends to do fun stuff. I was wanting to become a recluse and stay in and not be around them. And I was always such a social kid. I've always been that way, an extrovert. And I didn't know what to do with it. And I was having kind of thoughts that would spiral to really dark places that when I look back, it made no sense. And so I didn't call it depression. I was 17, so I didn't really call it anything at the time. I just knew something was different. Senior year got a little better, and then I got into my early 20s, and it got accentuated because of some of the really poor choices I had made for several years concerning, like some addiction stuff, some drug and alcohol stuff that always exacerbates depression big time. But what's ironic is a lot of people who don't know how to deal with depression and anxiety and stuff actually go and start using those things to try and numb, to not feel those things, but they actually, when you wake up the next day, make the problem worse. And so I spiraled to where it had gotten so bad. And by the time I was 23, that's when I actually was spiraling so bad for no reason. On the outside, everyone would have thought I was great. And my life was great. I had everything I needed, all the friends I needed. I was having plenty of fun, but internally I was dying. And so it was by God's grace in that dark moment when I was 23 is when I finally surrendered to Christ and turned my life over to him. And here's what's crazy though, is a lot of great things changed in that moment, but not everything changed in that moment. One of them was the struggle with mental health things, depression specifically. Anxiety is not, I know that's the struggle for a lot of people. That's not as bad of a struggle for me. It comes and goes, but it's manageable, knock on wood, for me. What's really difficult for me is the depression side, the me shutting down, me not wanting to get out of bed, really hard tasks, really basic tasks feeling overwhelming.
Yeah.
And chronic fatigue when you're maybe in shape or eating healthy and you still are feeling chronic fatigue and stuff like that. I've always struggled with that and in waves. And so it's gone up and down in waves. And so I'll fast forward because I don't want to make this too long, since everyone watching is kind enough to spend time on video. But and then several years ago, 2-3 years ago, I had a wave of it come back in a really strong way. So much so, and I think I shared my story maybe a little bit with people at City First and at Christian Life, but so much so that I decided to do something that on paper was crazy, and I stepped away from being a pastor professionally and full time. And that was the hardest decision of my life, because getting to be a pastor, youth pastor, and a church planting pastor for almost 20 years was like the greatest joy of my life. And God did so much cool stuff. And that's why I think everyone was shocked when I did it. But I was literally doing it because I needed, for my mental health sake, to step away from the burden and the pressure that came with that for a little while.
Yeah.
That's kind of Cliff Notes version of my story.
Okay. So a couple more questions, but this is just kind of like maybe aside to just give you a chance to encourage some people who maybe are facing some similar things or maybe their own battle, for any students, for any staff, for any family members who are watching this, who are struggling with anxiety or depression, or maybe even again, some part of that spectrum, even just a lack of motivation during what's a really different and strange season. What would you say to them? What kind of encouragement would you want to give to them in this moment?
Yeah, the first thing I will say to you is just I'm sorry. Um, I don't care what your story is. I don't care what the context is. I don't care why you have it. I don't care if you think you brought it on yourself. I don't care if you think it came at, like, you just deserve for someone to look at you and say, I get it, and I'm sorry that you're going through it. I think having people around you that are empathetic is a huge step in the right direction. And so I'm just one person that knows what it's like to be you if you're struggling. And I just say sorry. Second, and more practical, I would say this. I hope and pray that all of you, I don't know if that's reality, but I hope and pray that all of you listening to this who are struggling have some friends. You don't have to have tons, but a few friends that are trustworthy enough for you to share your story with. Friends that are kind enough to not make you pay, not be judgmental. Because a lot of times what you do is you have great friends, but they don't struggle with mental health stuff. And without even meaning to, sometimes they can oversimplify it or say, hey, just get tougher. Hey, pull your bootstraps up. Or, hey, just try harder. Or, hey, fix your thoughts. And if you're on our end, it's never that simple.
Yeah.
There's more to it than just you being stronger or you being better.
Right.
There's biology involved. There's brain chemistry involved. There's nutritional things involved. There's outside circumstances that are coming at you that are involved that a lot of your friends won't have the capacity to sit and understand. And so if you could just have a friend that you trust enough to say, hey, could you just be a friend? I don't need you to fix me. I don't need you to tell me what I'm supposed to. I just need you to listen and empathize with me. That's been huge for me. Is I have Sonny's one of them. I have friends, we call them a confidants, that where you just feel safe with them and you can be your total self with them, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And they're going to love you no matter what, on your best day and on your worst day. So I have a few friends like that. Sonny's one of them for sure. He's been that for a long time now. And so that's huge. And then this has been a really big one for me in dealing with my depression is if you can get one small win a day, it has huge effects, like exponential. You guys know that term from math and what you learn there. It has exponential effects on your mental health. And so for me this week, I told my wife there was a certain time I wanted to get up every morning because in this, I'm wanting to get up 1 minute before I have to be principal and teacher in the morning. And I'm sleeping in, and because I don't have to get up for as much. And I told my wife last night, I said, hey, for the next 7 days, would you help hold me accountable to making sure I'm up at this time? And then we have a little thing, her and I, a little communion prayer thing we do in the mornings. And I said, for the next 7 days, I don't want to miss a day. And that seems like not a big deal to a lot of you, but for where I'm at right now with this, that's going to be a huge victory for me at the end of 7 days. And all I can do is one day at a time. And we started this morning and I was up and I got it. And I've already felt better today because I keep getting to lean back into that small win. And so if you're feeling really unmotivated, you're feeling way more lazy maybe than you would have if school was still in, just say what's one, and make it small, because it's not about what you accomplish. It's about you following through. That's where you get the energy from. It's not what you accomplish. Because you can find someone online that just did something better than you today, right? Like, so that's the point is you followed through, and in seasons like this, it has an incredible effect on your emotional health.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I appreciate that advice, just like validation, the encouragement, and One last question. We kind of already talked about it, just the sense of what this is costing us. And for our seniors, we love our seniors so much. And right now it's costing them a really special and meaningful, what was supposed to be a special and meaningful season of life. Whether it's like we already canceled senior trip and who knows, if we're going to have to, cancel some other special moments or special events. But is there anything you would say to the seniors in particular as they kind of just deal with the grief of that loss in this season?
Yeah, the first thing that would come out of my mouth, and I stand by it, is this sucks. It just sucks. I'm about to preach a message in not this weekend, but next on video to a church. I'm going to film it this next week though. And the title of it is, the message is called "This Sucks, but There's Hope." And my whole thing is going to be, those two statements don't have to be mutually exclusive. Meaning, you can say that circumstances suck and not lose your faith. You don't have to give up on faith. That's not an like I kind of grew up in a church where if you made statements like that, they called it anti-faith. Like you weren't having faith if you said this, like you almost had to act oblivious or ignore the circumstances.
Yeah.
And what I've learned as I've gotten older, and if you guys can learn this as younger people, man, you're going to be way ahead of me, is that never works. It sounds great. It just never works. What works is when you feel permission to be totally honest about the situation, but you then choose to let hope win in the end. So in my message, what I'll say is, when I say this sucks, I'm going to say, but there's a comma there, not a period. So this sucks, comma. If there's a period, then it's just a statement, right? But the comma is, but there's still hope. And then there's a period or an exclamation point, and the order matters. Meaning, you need to be honest about how you feel about being a senior and losing a bunch of things that you probably looked forward to for several years and worked really hard to earn. Life does that, man, and I hate it, but life just does that. And you guys are getting one of your first big tests on how you're going to walk through life and handle things like this. And that's where we get this term character from. Like, you're getting a chance right now to show what kind of character you have. So I would say, man, be honest about how you're feeling. Don't hide it down. Don't try and sound like super Christian who's just got, if you're mad, be mad. Just don't let it be the final statement. If you're angry, if you're sad, if you're depressed, be that. Don't let it be the final statement. Put a comma there and then say, okay, I've been on the record with how I'm feeling. I'm super ticked. I'm super mad. I'm super frustrated, but I'm not going to let my heart end there. I'm going to go to a positive place of hope.
Yeah.
That's one of two options. It's that, or sit around and just get depressed and sad and angry. Or you say all that, you go on the record, and then you say, but there's still hope. Yeah. And I'm still alive. I'm still healthy. I still have tons going on for me. And I just hope for you that you find hope in an otherwise sucky situation. But it does suck, and you're not a bad Christian for being honest about that. And don't let anyone tell you that. Just let hope win in the end.
That's great, man. I thought maybe you were going to pull like a Scott's Tots moment and like promise them free college tuition, but
Chad's lads.
That's right.
I got mouse pads I'm making for you guys right now.
You hear that, seniors? Mouse pads for your computers.
Chad's lads. Oh, you can handle.
I love it. All right. Well, we appreciate so much you just coming on for a little bit and just kind of talking and sharing from your heart. And if you don't mind, just you want to say a quick prayer for Christian life and anyone who might be listening, and then we'll shut things down.
Yeah. First of all, whoever listened into this chapel, you guys are awesome. You have an amazing chaplain, Pastor Sonny here. He loves you guys so much. And I love you guys. it was cool spending the earlier part of the year with you guys. And it's cool to be with you guys again, kind of wrapping it up towards the end of the year. And so love and appreciate you guys. God, I just pray in the name of Jesus that you bless every single student within the sound of my voice. God, every teacher that's watching this, principals, if they're watching this, God, I just pray your blessing over them, your protection over them, your kindness over them. God, we are asking you as your children in a really difficult situation, in a really difficult season, God, we are asking you to do what only you can do. And to be with us and let us know that you're for us, and continue to show us in the midst of a really bad situation why you're a good God. Lord, I pray for every student who's struggling with that thought, that God, you would continue to reveal to them that you are up to something, and that you, behind all the difficulties, are doing beautiful things. And we just have to give time to see those things transpire. God, we believe that. God, I thank you for every student. I pray blessing on them in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Chad.
Yep. Love you guys.